It's January 10th, 2025, and I found this video snippet this morning on social media of a flight attendant getting into it with a passenger, and the whole situation absolutely could have been mitigated and avoided. Check it out.
Because you're pointing at me.
Stop yelling at me.
You're pointing at my face when you're saying that. And
How are you pointing at my face?
Because you're pointing at me first.
You know what? It's a safety reason for
I
your
don't
child.
care.
Not only for
I
you.
don't listen to you.
Folks, when you're in a position of authority, a business owner, a supervisor, a parent, a flight attendant, when you're in a position of authority, you'll find it very, very easy to find yourself becoming frustrated and offended when you sense and believe that someone is clearly ignoring and disregarding your authority. And in this case, when you see this video, this all over a seatbelt. Apparently, the flight attendant had asked the passenger to put on her seatbelt. She refused, and the whole thing blew up into this big old argument. And in the video, you see the flight attendant now looming over the passenger, pointing fingers, using a harsh tone of voice, and arguing and making excuses for her own behavior. I'm pointing at you because you're pointing at me. Whew, folks, this is how it coulda, shoulda, woulda, went. In a perfect world where people take into account basic conflict de-escalation concepts, tips, and techniques. And these concepts and tips and techniques are applicable to anywhere, to anyone, to any situation where you're dealing with customers and clients, another human being. So this flight attendant walked up and asked this lady to put on her seatbelt. For whatever reason, this lady is refusing to put on her seatbelt, okay? You ask again. You find this is why it's so critical that you maintain situational awareness and self-discipline. The situational awareness to recognize this lady and I are not getting along. This passenger and I are not getting along. I'm not getting to them, and all I feel is myself getting upset because I'm getting offended and frustrated. And now you have the self-discipline to just walk away. Take a deep breath, walk away. And this is where teamwork comes in. Ask one of your colleagues, hey, can you go down there and talk to passenger in F7? We are not getting along. She's refusing to put on her seatbelt. And don't you know, and it's a known, scientifically proven thing, and I know you've probably seen this or observed it or witnessed it or experienced it. Your colleague, another person can come up and say the exact same thing, but because it's a different person, a different presentation, a different tone of voice, someone who's probably a lot more calm, the person that they're addressing becomes compliant, calms down, and the whole thing is de-escalated. So that is why it's so critical that when you're dealing with a customer, a client, a passenger, and you're not getting along, that you recognize you're not getting along, you recognize you're getting worked up, take a deep breath, break contact, disengage, go help someone else. And then ask one of your colleagues to go address that passenger. More likely than not, they will probably be compliant just to spite you, because to them, they think they're getting one on you, right? Whatever. They put on their seatbelt, and then then the flight can go. In this case, the whole flight was delayed like an hour to 3 hours, and it absolutely could have been eliminated. What are the things the flight attendant could have done differently? Number one, you don't want to stand over somebody looming over them, okay? That is known to inadvertently trigger someone's fear aggression. They're going to become that much more defensive, and it's very uncomfortable when you have someone looming over you. You know that. You've had someone standing over you when you're at a table, at a desk, and someone comes up real close to into your space and all that. It's uncomfortable. Imagine when they're doing that and you guys are in a heated situation. It becomes really uncomfortable. So you don't want to loom over people. That flight attendant could have addressed that same passenger from one or two rows of seats away. I can talk to you from over here. You don't have to be up in someone's face. People usually do that as an intimidation tactic to try to bully someone into submission. Flight attendant could have just stepped back if she was going to have to stay in contact with this woman. The other thing is, don't get into the point where you're pointing fingers at somebody. That is one of the rudest, most antagonistic, confrontational things you could do to someone. And then to have the gall to make excuses and say, well, you're pointing fingers at me first. Just avoid the whole situation. Do not get yourself sucked into the situation where you're arguing, debating, making excuses, and so on. It's unprofessional, it's unnecessary, and all it does is escalate the situation. I'm sure the flight attendant meant well, but everyone's getting frustrated and all that because they want to get this flight off the ground. I totally get it. But you getting upset with the customer, client, and passenger and finger pointing and being loud, rude, obnoxious, and angrily telling them, stop yelling at me, is not going to help. Because this person clearly is at the point where they don't care that that they're yelling at you and that it's hurting your feelings, and they're telling you to stop yelling at them. Just avoid that. Long, slow, deep breath, situational awareness. Are you engaging, connecting with this person? If not, break contact. Here's the thing. The longer you stay interacting with someone who clearly does not like you, the more you're pissing them off. And all you're doing is escalating the situation. You've been in that situation where someone's just talking at you and you want them to just go away. And the whole situation just starts going off the rails. Slow down, assess the situation. Do you have to be that close when you talk to someone? Avoid pointing fingers, avoid telling, commanding, demanding from someone who's clearly mad at you. Just talk to someone in a low, calm tone of voice. Recognize when it's time to disengage and walk away. And this is why it's critical to work as a team. Ask a colleague to come up there and talk to this person. Now, in the event that you go talk to one of your colleagues and they can't come help you in that moment, and for whatever reason, you have to go back and engage this person, you need to take a deep breath and dig deep down and draw on your self-discipline and professionalism, and just recognize when you go back and address the passenger, you do not have to be right up on them on that row of seats. You can be a row or two in front of them. You want to be making eye contact. You don't have to be talking to them from behind them or even necessarily beside them, because if you're talking to them beside them, you're in that row. So make contact with them in front where you can just make eye contact. But again, it's all down to you. Now, do you know any flight attendants? Are you a flight attendant? Have you had situations like that? Found yourself in a situation with a passenger where you're walking away thinking, man, I could have handled that very differently. Nothing wrong. It's just very natural, normal behavior to kind of get yourself sucked into a situation like this. Again, especially when you're in a position of authority, because you're responsible for making sure all the passengers are secured so we can get this flight off the ground. But you got to keep your head on straight and you got to be thinking through things. All right? Slow down, take a deep breath, assess the situation, maintain situational awareness, recognize that this person is not getting along with you and doesn't like you and doesn't want to talk to you anymore. Break contact, disengage, ask one of your colleagues to come and try. More often than not, they will be successful. And it's a win-win because a flight makes it on its way and everyone's on time. Take care, be safe. I'll catch you on the next video.